Welcome, everyone. Hail to my fellow Selvan citizens. I am the prophet of Pagulane. Come, join me by the fire. Sit a while and hear a thrilling and dramatic tale like no other. Walk the path with me amongst the gods of old in each chapter of Book 1, Fall of Immortals. Chapter 21, Shylock. Accompanied by 10 Imperial Knights, 1,000 infantry soldiers, and his four-legged incarnation, Zaldin led his men through the frosty forest where the gray sky blocked all sunlight, only giving clarity to the night sky. The city was home to the Shylock, who ruled from a castle of stone and iron. It rested in the center of the city, with specially crafted stained glass windows designed to restrict the sun's rays. Hidden away from the scorn of the sun, the massive dark cathedral, here stood Coven Castle. The Shylock were unique creatures. Though pale from the absence of sunlight, their skin was almost as flawless as porcelain. Blonde hair was common among them, although the shade varied between them. Their vampiric magic allowed their blacksmiths to rival woodland elves, making them quite formidable on the battlefield against any assaulting force. One of the most peculiar traits about the Shylock was their blood-red eyes. Their eyes gave them illuminating perception in the dark, and their irises ranged from light blue to green, or, in the Elder's case, yellow. Though yellow irises have yet to reappear within the coven outside the Elder's three, this species of vampire can increase its numbers by either sharing blood while a victim is near death, or, less often, through traditional reproduction, although the latter is the least common. Being how they need to feed on others in order to sustain life, reproducing life is a rare occurrence. 100 years may pass before a child is born within the coven, and on such occasions, a grand celebration is thrown for the birth of the next generation. Upon arriving at Vargas, Zaldin noticed the human population performing maintenance work on the city. As dusk was approaching, he also observed a fraction of humans guarding the ramparts of the city walls. These must have been those who displayed the most skill and loyalty among the minorities. They were apparently uplifted and trained as soldiers to guard the city walls while the Shylocks sleep during the day, he thought to himself. Tending to the stables, structural repairs, carpentry, and the like were all responsibilities tasked to the Vargan minority. In exchange for also providing the Shylock with a local food source, the humans were given protection, education, and wages from steady work. The Shylocks are said to all descend from their coven leader, Ambrosio the First. The Olympian, Apollo of Light, cursed Ambrosio to be the bane of the sun so that it would scorch him for the rest of his days. However, Apollo's sister, Artemis, pitied the once young man, watching him as he hid like a desperate nightcrawler from the sun's gaze. Taking pity on him, she blessed him with immortality, fueled by the blood of the living, and granted Ambrosio the flight, speed, and strength necessary to hunt his prey like the goddess herself. The 13 Coven elders awaited Zaldin in front of Coven Castle as his entourage marched through the city and up to its center. They stood in formation on the castle's steps in ascending order. From the left were Alice, Celeste, Drusilla, Tatiana, and Thana. Then on the right stood Cassius, Lazarus, Nicholas, Silas, and Latreus. At the very top of the stairs stood Elder Ambrosio. Though the hair on his head and face were gray, he had the body build of a young warlord, and his yellow eyes glowed at the top of the 13th step. On the 12th step stood his oldest descendants. On his right was Absalom, and to his left was Selim. They were the oldest of the council members descended from Ambrosio. They each wore long, gray tassels over their shoulders to distinguish themselves from the other 10 elders. An imperial knight opened Zalda's carriage door, and Zemnis then preceded his master out of the carriage. His dark claws and low growl set the Coven guards' nerves on edge. "Welcome, King of Xanadu. I am Ambrosio, and we are the Coven elders. I must say, we were surprised by your message," greeted Elder Ambrosio as he descended the steps to meet with their esteemed guest. The remaining elders formed behind him while maintaining seniority. "And your messenger," added Selim. "Never before has an assassin penetrated so deeply within our sanctuary. We were relieved to find that it was not war which you sought," said Absalom. "Lord Ambrosio and respected council members, I would like to express my envy of your fine city. It pleases me greatly that we can meet face to face," Zaldin responded charismatically, and with open arms to grasp the 3 elders' hands. "I am sure your journey was long and cold. Please take this time to rest while our servants attend to your men, and we will speak later about the matter at hand," Ambrosio suggested. "I also would like for you to meet my daughter, Melita," he said as a beautiful young woman with long brown hair approached them. "Melita, would you show our esteemed guest to his room?" he asked. "Why, yes, Father. It would be my pleasure," she replied. "Your hospitality is well received," Zaldin added. Melita then guided Zaldin by the hand and up the stairs into the castle. She began a small tour of the castle on the way to Zaldin's quarters. The walls were made of obsidian, garnished with fine artistry, and the flags of different Coven houses hung on its surfaces. The floors were laid with granite and covered by a red carpet throughout the castle. She showed him the doors to the council chamber where the assembly would be held. The decor was heavily focused on elegance, with an interior color scheme of red, black, and white, which could translate to a correlation between life, blood, and darkness. Their clothing consisted of long dark robes or tunics, which they wore almost like a uniform daily, except for special occasions. There were subtle differences in their clothing, such as with the dyed stitchings designed on their silk and leather fabric. The colors also varied, though they always revolved around the aforementioned 3 colors. 4 Imperial Knights followed behind as Melita pointed out different symbols and architecture along the wall, while she occasionally injected flirtations into the tour. Zaldin was entertained by her teasing, only relinquishing a charming smile in response to her attempts. She had a slim figure, curvy hips, and flawless skin. Many prospective suitors have said that even the devil coveted her. "Well, Your Highness, what is your impression thus far?" Melita asked. "Of the castle, or you?" he responded flirtatiously and kind, playing her game of subtle seduction. She was witty, educated, and many years older than she appeared. Each time Melita would attempt to probe about his origin, Zaldin would change the subject or ask a question of his own, which she would do in kind. When he had asked about their magic, architecture, and hierarchy, she would respond with a smirk and a compliment. After all, there was no guarantee that an alliance would be made, and her father schooled her well in maneuvering through politics and royalty. Their game of wordplay would end, however, as Melita and Zaldan arrived at his bedroom door. "It was an honor to have shared your company, Your Majesty. This is your room." Melita opened the door for Zaldan to enter, and his knights took positions in a square around the entrance to the hall. "Not going to join me, Lady Melita?" Zaldan asked provocatively. "If I joined you, then you wouldn't be able to rest." "Sleep well, King Zaldan," she replied. Her enticing hips swung as she departed, and she glanced over her shoulder with a playful grin across her face. "I think we've found our first maiden. She's a very fitting candidate. Intelligent, beautiful, willpower, and a ruling bloodline." Zaldan uttered to Zemnis that the sapphire wolf entered the room and lay down at the foot of the large bed. Several hours then passed, and the Coven assembly had been called to order. The interior of the council chamber was a large semicircle, and the cushioned seats of the 13 elders were supported by white pillars in ascending order, forged against a white wall. Their seats were arranged like a mountain. The 3 elders sat above the other 10 like 3 heads of a dark pyramid built upon millennia of foundation and tradition. The remaining aristocrats stood in a crowd on both sides of the room, and the elders' aides stood beside their individual pillars. Melita faced King Zaldan beneath her father's pillar as the conqueror stood before the Coven Council, between the council elders and their court of aristocrats. "We, the council, have convened this assembly to consider the proposal of an alliance between the Coven of Vargas and the Empire of Selva." Ambrosio convoked the room to order. Though the oldest and original Shylock, the ignorant would assume Ambrosio to be the youth of the elders. He retained the body of a young man throughout the ages, though dozens of centuries reflected in his eyes. "Though not just an alliance, you are proposing that we become a city-state of the Southern Empire and raise your banner above ours," Lady Celine added. Even among the 3 oldest Shylock, her beauty had withstood the test of time. If you add on several centuries, Zaldan presumed she may have been turned in her late 20s or early 30s. "Please understand, Your Majesty, we have maintained our sovereignty for centuries and cannot find a reason to relinquish our independence," said Absalom. Absalom, on the other hand, seemed to have lived half of a mortal's life before his conversion. The only hair left on his head grew from his face, and an average guess would place him either as a veteran soldier or former king. Time had made several marks of age on his face before he attained immortality. "Exalted elders and nobles of Vargas," Zaldan began, "I understand the need for autonomy and the preservation of one's culture. Yet, together, I know that we can accomplish the unfathomable." Shogun of the Heavens Book 1 is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle or for order at your local Barnes & Noble's bookstore. The Amazon link to purchase the book is in the description of the video. Behold, as we all dive into the world of myths and fiction. Book 2, The Throne Crusher, is still set to be released on December 9th,